Okay friends, welcome to Easy Coding with Amara once again, and in this video I will tell you how you can store the data in the SQLite database, and after that how you can retrieve the data, how you can delete and how you can update the data. Okay, so before starting, first of all I will tell you this is my website, and inside this website I upload all the code related to my videos. Okay, so if you scroll down here you will see that this type of category section, and inside this category section almost all the code related to different programming languages is uploaded. Okay, so you will check and I will provide the link in the description box. So first of all I will show you what we have done in the previous video. So in the previous video I create this type of layout. Okay, and I just changed the theme of this layout. In the previous video I set this theme which is related to red color, but it's not looking too good, so that's why I changed the theme. Okay, so you will see that my previous video for this type of registration page, and now in this video I will tell you how you can store the data. So by writing code here, so I write the name, email, and after that I write the password here. So after that you click on the submit button, so you will see the data is stored. I did not show any doors right here. So after that this is floating action button, and inside this floating action button I create this type of three icons. So in search icon I retrieve all the data, so you will see that the data is retrieving successfully. So I create this type of layout, and after that if you want to update the data, you click here, so you will see that this type of dialog box, and inside this dialog box I retrieve that name and email by default. Okay, so if user want make changing some here, so I write the 1 to 1 here. Yeah, I write the 1 here, and then I click on the submit button. So you will see that the data is updated, but you have to refresh the page. So again I click on this and you will see that the data is updated. Okay, so if you want to delete some data, you have to long click on this part and you will see this type of layout. And if you want to delete data, yes and no, and if I click on yes, data is deleted, but you have to refresh. Okay, so you will see that the data is deleted successfully. And also you will see that this image is not looking good here, but in the real device it's looking amazing. So you have to try this layout. It's looking amazing in my mobile phone. Okay, so now let's open the Android Studio. So this is the project which I have created in my previous video, and I will show you all the code which I have done in my previous video. So this is the main.bat file in which I call this my app1to1 class, and inside this class I create this type of registration page. So this is the stateless class which I have called in from the main screen, and after that this call class my app calls this my home page class, and inside this my home page class I code all the registration screen. Okay, so you have to watch my previous video for understanding this code. And after that I create another class which is database helper class, and inside this database helper class I just declare different variables. Okay, so these are all the variables which I declare. So this is the database variable in which I store the database name, version, and after that I store the table name, and after that I create 4 columns in this table. Okay, that's why I create column ID, name, email and password. And after that I just initialize this database helper instance by writing the instance variable. Okay, and now I want to show this type of dependency which I have included here. So this is the dependency for the SQLite, and after that I add the dependency for the floating action button. Okay, so these are 3 dependencies which I included here, and make sure you write like this, and if you give any space here you got the error. Okay, so don't give any space here. And after that I write the asset folder's name here, because in the previous video I used the images. Okay, so this is the code of my previous video basically, and here I write the font family for the font. If you want to change the font size and if you want to change the font family, so you have to include the font family here, and after that you can use the font family. So this is the all the code which we have done in the previous video, and now I write the code for store the data in this database helper class. Okay, and after that I get the data from this input fields and then store the data in the SQLite database. Okay, so let's open the database helper class. Okay, so first I create here a function, and inside that function first I check whether our database is created or not. If a database is created, then I return simply the database. And if the database is not created, then first I create the path for the database, and inside that path I create the table where I have to store the data. Okay, so here we have three steps. First we check whether our database is created or not, and if the database is created, I return the database. Otherwise, I create the path for the database, and inside that path, I create a table. Okay. So first in this function, I simply check whether this database is null or not. Okay. So if the database is not null, then I return the database. That means the database is created. Okay. So if the database is not created, then this else part is running, and inside this I call a function, another function, and inside this function I create the path for the database. Okay, so now I am going to create this in each database function, and now I create this type of function, and you will see this type of error. So press Alt, enter, and import this. And after that you have to press Alt, enter, and import this path provider. And for this join function, you have to import this library. Okay, so inside this function, first I get the application documents directory, and after that I write the database name which I have created in this database name. So inside this path, our database name is created, and after that I call this open database function, and inside this database function I pass this path, version, and on create, and inside this on create I call another function, and inside this function I write the query for creating the table. Okay, so now let's create this function for creating a table. So here is a function, and inside this function I execute a query, and inside this I write the table name and create all 4 columns which I have declared in above. So you will see that here I declare some variables like table name, column ID, column name, and email and password. So by using that variables I create a table. So the first time this function is called and check whether this table is created or not. Okay, whether this database is created or not, and if the database is created, then it returns this database which created, and if the database is not created, then it calls this function, and inside this function first I get the path, and after that inside that path I create a table. Now I store the data in the SQLite database. So first open the registration page, and inside this registration page you will see that I create three variables, which is name, email and password. And after that, when user writes something in the input field, I store that data inside in name, email and password. Okay, so like this you will see that here is an onChange method. So when the data is going to change in the input field, this method is called, and the data is storing inside this variable, and I assign this variable to the name. Okay, so the name of the user is stored inside this name, and similarly the email of the user is stored inside this email variable, and after that the password of the user is stored inside this password variable. Okay, so now I am going to create another function, and inside this function I store that these variables inside the SQLite database. So you will see that this is the button which I have created in the previous video. So this is the button. When user click on this button, I get the data of the user and store in the SQLite database. So inside this function, I call a function which is insert, and now I am going to create this insert function. So the function is created like this. So inside this function, I create this type of map, and this map, inside this map, the first variable is string and the second is dynamic. Okay, so first you have to click Alt Enter to import this database helper dot which we have created inside this. Okay, so import this class. So after the import, you will see this type of map, and inside this map I create a row. So this is string because the database helper dot column name is string. Okay, so you will see that inside this database helper, the data inside this column name is string, ID, name, email, password. Okay, so these all are strings. Okay, that's why I write the string here, and after that I write here dynamic. Okay, because you will see the name of user is the string, but the user can write the password which is integers. Okay, so that's why the type is changed, and that's why I write dynamic here, so that user can write string as well as integers. Okay, so now the row is created successfully, and now I pass this row to the another function, and that function I create inside this database helper class. So first I create a function inside this database helper class, and after that I pass this row to that function. Okay, so now let's open this database helper class, and inside database helper class I create a method for the database data insertion. So let's create a function, and this is very simple function, and inside this function I create a variable whose type is database, and inside this variable, by using this variable, I call other method which is insert, and inside this insert method I pass the table. Okay, and which is this table and the row. Okay, and this row is coming from this registration page where I store all the data of the user. So this is very simple function, and inside this function I receive the row and store in the table. And now I call this insert function from here. And for calling this class, first I am going to initialize this class here. So you will see that this is the database helper class and dot instance. So this class is initialized, and after that by using this variable db.helper, I call the insert function. and pass this row. Okay, and now this function returns an ID. So I store the ID inside this ID variable, and you will see that it takes some time to store the data inside the database. That's why I write the await variable here. So I open this database helper and you will see that this is returned. Okay, so it returns something from here. So it returns the ID of the row, and I store that ID inside this ID variable. And now I am going to print that ID. And now I am going to run this code to see the output. So just run this code. So the app is restarted. Okay, and now I close this and open this SQLite database tutorial app. And also open this run, so that's why you can see the output. And now I click on this register button. So you will see that ID is 1 and the data is stored successfully. Now I am going to retrieve the data from the SQLite database. Okay, so let's close this and open this registration screen, and inside this registration screen I create a floating action button. So this is the search icon, and inside this first I am going to create another .dot file which is retrieve data. So this is retrieve data, and I call this from this floating action button search icon. So you can call by writing this code here, and now click Alt Enter to import this retrieve data class. Okay, so the class is imported successfully. Now open this class. First I will show you this type of demo. So you will see that if you want to get the data, so you have to need this type of name, password, email. So first I am going to create a model class, and by using this model class I create the array of it. So I paste this here model class, and inside this model class I create this type of 4 different variables: name, email, password and key. And this is the unique key where the data is stored. And after that I create a constructor and assign this name to this name, email, password, and this all data is coming from the retrieve data, from where I pass the whole data to this model class. Okay, so all the data, name, email, password and key, is passed by this retrieve data dot class and stored inside this name, email, password and key variables. Okay, so now I open this retrieve data class and I create some variables here which we are going to use. So first click Alt Enter to import this model class, and after that click on this Alt Enter to import this database helper class. Okay, and now first you know that we have to fetch all the data from the database. Okay, and now I am going to create a function, and inside that function I fetch all the data from the database and store inside this list. So I create a function here. So this is the function, and inside this function you will see I call a function of database class. So first I am going to create this query all rows function inside this database class. So first open this database helper class, and inside this class I create that function. Inside this function I simply initialize the database, and after that I simply query all the table, which means I select all the table and pass all the table from here. Okay, so I return whole table by writing this code. So inside this function you will see that all the table means all the row are stored inside this variable all rows, and now I print query all rows. If you don't want to write this code, you just remove this code. Okay, and after that I create for each loop, which means it will run for each row. If you store 5 rows in that table, so it run 5 times, and if you store 2 rows in the table, so it will run 2 times. Okay, so by calling this query all row, this function simply return whole table, and that table is stored inside this row. And after that I write for loop here, and by writing this for loop, first I get all the data which is present inside the first row. By writing this code, I get all the data which is name, email, password and ID, and then I pass this whole data to this model class, and then I store this model class inside this list. Okay, so by writing this code, all the rows which is stored inside our data is stored inside this list. And after that I write this set state code for refresh this list, because in the first time our list is empty, and by writing this code all the data is stored inside our list. But if I did not write this set state function, our list is not refreshed and it show empty. And by writing this code I refresh my list so that the length of the list is changed according to this all rows. So if there are 2 rows inside the table, the length of the list is 2, and if there are no rows in the table, the length of the list is 0. And now I get all the code which is present inside our table is stored inside this list. And now the next step is creating a list view. And you will see I create this type of list view, and I store more data here. So you will see that here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, and I am going to create this type of list view. So let's start. So first I remove this from here, and I create an app bar here, And by writing this code, you will see that I create an app bar. So inside this, first I set the background color, and after that I create an app bar, and inside this app bar I set the color, title and some styling. And inside this body I create a container, and inside this container I create child, and after that I am going to insert this background image. You will see this type of background image. And for background image you use the attribute which is decoration. So this is the attribute decoration, and I set the color image, and if you want to set this image to the whole screen, so you have to use this attribute fit, and after that I apply some opacity inside this image. So you will see I apply 1. So if you want to change, you can write like this. So sorry, like this 0.6 and 0.9 you can change like this. So I set here 1, and after that I am going to call this function grid header from this, and now I am going to create this function. So you will see that I create this function here, and inside this function I create a list view. So this is the list view. So in this list view, first I check the length of this list. So if the length of this list is 0, I show this message null. So I write no data insert, and if the list is not equal to null, then I am going to create a list view here. So before creating a list view, first I will show you how I create this layout. So in this list view, I create a sticky header class which is built in, and inside this sticky header class it takes two attributes. The first one is header and the second one is content. Okay, so here the length of the list view is depend on this header. So if you have one header, the length of the list view is 1, and if you have multiple headers, which means that if you want to create this layout once again, then you have to create two headers, and the length of the list view is 2. But in this video I create only one header, and inside this content section I create a grid view, and inside this grid view I set the number of child here too. So you will see that in this row we have two childs like this. In this row we have two childs. Okay, so now first let's create this list view, and inside this list view I create a sticky header. Sticky header is a class, okay, and that class takes two parameters. The first one is header and the second one is content. So in the header section I write this code, and in the content section I create this type of array. So if the list is not null, then I am going to create list view. So you will see this type of code, and this is the list view code, and inside this list view code I am going to create a sticky header. But before this, you will see here we have to write the item count of the list. So first I am going to create a list here which store this header. So I create this header list, and you will see that this is a list, okay, because if you want to create different headers like 2, 3, 4, you have to store that in a list. So that's why I create a list here, and now here write list header dot length. So here you will see that we have only one item inside this list header. So the length of the list is only 1. And inside this list view, I am going to create a sticky header class. And inside that class, I create the header and the content. But for this sticky header class, you will see I execute this library, which is sticky headers. Okay, so you have to execute this library, and after that go to the main.dot file and press Ctrl S for save. Okay, and now click Alt Enter to import this sticky header class, which is widget.dot. And you will see this is executed successfully. And first close this bracket here, and after that this is an extra, so remove it and paste the column here, and write this closing bracket here. So now, and you will see this type of highlighted, and if you click Alt Enter, you will see this type. It says that add require arguments, which is content and header. So first I am going to create this header section here, and inside this header section I simply get the data from this list, which is list header, which is student record. So I get this data by using this list, and you will see that I set the height, after that the color transparent, and after that give some padding, and after that I set this text to the left side, and then set some color, font size and font weight, and you will see here I get the data from this list header. And now I am going to create a content section here, and inside this section I simply design this type of card view. You will see this type of black highlighted background, so this is a card view. Okay, and inside this card view I create this type of design. So for this design I execute a library, which is this library shape of view. Inside this shape of view library I have different shapes. So you will see this is shape of view library, and inside this we have different shapes. The first one is circle, and then round, and like this we have different shapes, and I use this bubble shape. So I provide you a link in the description box if you want to use this. And now open this retrieve data, and I am going to create this content section. And inside this card I write this code. The first one is first I remove this and create a grid view, and inside this grid view I write this code. So the first one is, if you want to show the grid view, by default it is false, so you have to make it true. If you did not make it true, then you can't see the item inside the grid view. And after that, if you want to make the grid view scrollable, okay, so you will see that I can scroll this grid view. So you will see this type of scrolling. So if we have more items, like if we have 10 more items, so it scroll like a list view. Okay, so this is not a list view scrolling, it's a grid view scrolling. Okay, so you will see this type of grid scrolling, and after that I pass the item. So item, you will see that I pass the whole item which is stored inside this list in this grid view. And one thing you have to focus, these all items are stored inside this grid view, not in a list view. Okay, these are the items of the grid view, because you will know that I set the length of this list view to the 1 because we have header 1. So these all the data of the grid view. And after that I set this type of layout which is grid delegate, and by using this layout you will set the length of the row. So if you want to show 3 child inside one row, so you have to set this cross axis count 3, but I set here 2 because I want to show 2 childs in this row. Okay, and after that this is the size of each child. So if you want to increase the size, you will change this. Okay, so this is for size, and this is for the length of the child. And after that write the item count here, and now inside this item count I am going to create a card, and inside this card I write the child, and you will see that this is the card which is like black. Okay, and inside this card I create this shape. Okay, so now I am going to create this shape, and you have to first execute this library shape of view. Okay, so right here shape of view, and after that click alt enter to import this, and inside this shape of view class you have to define which shape you want to use. So I want to use the bubble shape and write code for bubble shape here. So this is the code for the bubble shape, and if you want to use some other shapes you have to change. And after that I write child, and inside this child I am going to create a container, and you will see that inside this container I create this name field, after that password, after that email, and this is the ID of each row. So all the data is showing here which is vertically, and if you want to show the data which is vertical, then you have to create a column, and if you want to show the data horizontally, then you have to create a row. Okay, so here I am going to create a column, and inside this column first I am going to create a text field for the name of the user. So here I paste this code, and you will see that I want to show this text in the center, so I use center class, and inside the center class I create a text view, and after that I set the font size, font family, and then color. So in the previous video I will show you how you can use this dancing script. So if you want to use some font, so first you have to download it, and after that you have to paste that font here, and after that you have to write that font family here, so like this, and after that you have to use that font size. Okay, so if you want to see this detail you will see my previous video. The one thing which here I am going to tell you, this is the name. Okay, and this name I am getting this name from this list. Okay, so you will see that we store all the data inside this list. You will see this type of list. So now I am going to get the name of the user from this list. Okay, and now you will see here is an index. So the first time the index is 0, and it fetch the data which is the name of user. So first it fetch all the data which is stored in the 0 index. After that it fetch all the data which is stored in the index number 1. Similarly this list execute it again and again until this index becomes 0. Okay, and the value of this index is equals to this list dot length, which means that if we have stored 3 rows in the table, then the length of this list is 3. And similarly, if we store the data inside the list, so if we store the data inside this table 5, so if we store the record of 5 students, then the length of this list is 5. Okay, so like this it works. And after that, now I'm going to show the password field like this. Okay, so now this is the password field, this is email. So now I'm going to create 2 text view like this. So scroll down first and paste the data here. So this is the code for the creation of the password and the text of the password, and after that this is the code for the email. Okay, and after that I give some space, and like if you want to give some space, you use the size box. So you will see that here some space like 10, because I give the height of 10. And now I am going to create another shape of view, which is this star. Okay, so this is a shape of view which I am going to create here. So this is the shape of view. Inside this shape of view, first I am going to declare the height and width, and after that you have to define which shape you want to use. So I want to use star shape, so after that you have to give the nodes. You will see that here I give 5 nodes. So for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you want to give more, you will do it. And so now I want to use 6. Okay, and after that I create a container, and inside container simply I set the color, and then use center class, and inside the center class I write the key, and you will see that I store the key, I get the key, and I store the key inside this list. Okay, so this is basically a key. So I show the key of each node inside this star and then set the color. So this is very simple layout. You will see that this is very simple layout which I have created for you. So now I am going to show you the output, and I call this class from this registration screen. So yes, it's done. Now let's run this code. And hope so there is no error. Now the app is running successfully, and you will see this type of layout. So I am going to show you what's it show. So you will see that no data insert, and after that I write some data here, and now click on register, and now open this, and the length of the data is 0. This means we have make some mistake here. So first open the function where we fetch the data from the database. So it's a retrieve data, and you will see we didn't call this function, that's why the length of the list is equals to 0. So I am going to call this. So I am going to call this function inside in its method. So that's why this function execute first. Okay, so press Ctrl O and write in it, and you will see this type of init method override, and I simply call this function from this override. So when our app runs, this function is executed first. So it call this function which is fetch, and then it get all the data from the database. Okay, so now let's run again, and the app is restarted. Okay, now and you will see that the data is fetched successfully, and the color of the email and password is white. That's why it looking like this. And now I'm going to make some styling to improve this layout. And first scroll down and set the color of this card, which is this container. Okay, set the color of this container gray, and you will see that I create this bubble shape, and after that I create this column, and I set the color of the column blue. And now I'm going to set the color of card, which is transparent. And now I press Ctrl S for save, and you will see that the color is set and this is transparent. Now I am going to set the background color, and after that also set this card view color. Okay, because we have created two card view. The first card view is transparent and the next card view is also transparent. Now press Ctrl S for save. So this is save, and now you will see that this type of layout. So store some more data. And press register. Now I store some more data here. And press register. Now you will see this type of list view. So that's it for this video, and in the next video I will tell you how you can update and how you can delete the data. And if you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe my channel. And any topic you want for a new video, then tell me in the comment box. See you soon. Allah Hafiz.